What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Linc here, and today we're going to start a new Pokemon series called Linc Lectures. Haven't come up with a catchy name, maybe L3. We're going to come up with some catchy, but for right now, we're going to call them Linc Lectures. I'm the professor, and class is in session. In today's lecture, we're going to be covering a majority of the English Blastoise that are released in Pokemon sets according to Pokelector.com. So if it's not on Pokelector.com, unfortunately, I'm not going to be covering just for time's sake because it's already going to be a long episode. On top of covering the Blastoises that were released in each of these sets, we're going to be covering the artists as well as the PSA 10 pops of the first edition, regular holo, and the reverse holos. Now that you know what we're going to be covering on today's lecture, get your pencil and pad ready or open the Notes app on your phone and let's get started. Of course, the legend of Blastoise started in January 9th, 1999 with the first ever Blastoise card released in Pokemon base set. Yes, we're taking it all the way back to the year 1999. Some of you watching this were probably not even born yet. Crazy, I know. This Blastoise artwork was illustrated by Ken Sugimori, and it came in a first edition and a regular holo card. The PSA 10 pop of the first edition of this Blastoise is only 101. And that is out of 3,063 entries into PSA. The PSA 10 pop of the regular holo is currently 369, and that is out of 30,000. Yes, there's been 30,000 regular holos sent to PSA for grading. Pokemon was so popular the first year that it was released in English. Pokemon released Base Set 2, which was basically a reprint of the first three sets, which was Base Set, Jungle, and Fossil, and it featured another Blastoise card, of course illustrated by the same artist because it is the same Pokemon card. Now let's move on to a couple months later in April of 2000, where they released the first ever Team Rocket set, and it featured this dark Blastoise. Definitely one of my favorite Blastoise artworks of all time. The artwork of this Blastoise was illustrated by none other than Arita. And in this set, we had a first edition holo, we had a regular holo Blastoise, as well as a non-holo Blastoise to collect in this set. The PSA 10 pop of the first edition holos is currently only 221 PSA 10s in first edition, and that is out of 5,681 entries into PSA. And for regular holo, there is currently only 58, and that is out of 6,450. Again, only 58 of this Blastoise in a regular holo. Let me know in the comments if you have this dark Blastoise card, or back then when you were a kid, did you ever pull this Blastoise card? Now we have to fast forward 2 years in the future to the year 2002, where Pokemon released the Legendary Collection. And the Legendary Collection, if you're not aware, is all about the reverse holo. By the time Legendary Collection was released, Pokemon was done with the first edition stamp, so there's only a reverse holo and a holo Blastoise to collect in this set. And a little thing I didn't mention, you can see that the logo for the legendary set is a little different. I'm not sure what you want to call that. Let me know in the comments, what do you call that symbol on this Blastoise? And as well as you can see, this is just the artwork from the Team Rocket set released 2 years prior. The PSA 10 pop of the reverse holo of this Blastoise is currently 68, and that is out of 1,122 entries. For the regular holo, there is currently only 8, and that is out of 770. Let me know your comments on the legendary set. Are you a big collector? Do you like the set? Me personally, I really do not care of this set, but I get it for collector reasons because if I'm correct, it was the first ever reverse holo set released by Pokemon. In that same year, a couple months later, Pokemon released maybe my favorite Blastoise artwork ever released in the Expedition base set. As you can see from the card, they have the reader, little history. If you didn't know, you could swipe it, I believe, to put the card into your Game Boy. Was the whole thing. I'm definitely going to actually make a video explaining that piece of history because it's definitely an important part of Pokemon history. This artwork of Blastoise was illustrated by Kimaya Masago. Again, that is Kimaya Masago. Thank you so much for releasing such an incredible artwork. In this set, there was a reverse holo, a regular holo Blastoise, and a non-holo Blastoise. The PSA 10 pop of the holo Blastoise is only 86. There's only been 86 PSA 10s in the regular holo. And the reverse holo, there's only 16. Yes, you heard that right. According to PSA, there is currently only 16 reverse holo Blastoise. According to PSA, if you're looking to purchase this card in a regular holo, it's going to cost you about $2,000. If you're looking to purchase this card in the reverse holo, it'll be less than $1,000, somewhere between the $500 to $700 range. It's not as good as the previous artwork, but in the same set, Pokemon released this alternative Blastoise artwork as well. Not really a big fan of this artwork. It looks definitely computer made and very basic. This card doesn't even come in a holo. There's only a non-holo as well as a reverse holo card to get. And who was illustrated with giving us this computer generated artwork was none other than Hiromichi Sugiyama. Again, that is Hiromichi Sugiyama. In a PSA 10, the non-holo version of this card, there is currently 132 out of 411. Again, the PSA 10, there is currently 132 in the non-holo. For the reverse holo, there is currently only 22 out of 346. Again, there is only 22 PSA 10s in a reverse holo out of 346. Look at this artwork one last time as we move on to the next Blastoise card. A couple more years pass until we get another Blastoise artwork in the EX Fire Red Leaf Green set in the year 2004. In this set, we only get a regular holo Blastoise, and who was credited with creating this artwork was none other than Hikaru Koki. Again, that was Hikaru Koki. The PSA 10 pop of this card is currently only 155. Again, there's only 155 PSA 10s of this card. And if you're looking to purchase this card, it'll cost you in the range of $1,800. Again, that is $1,800 if you're looking to get this card on the market in a PSA 10. Now, in the year 2006, we were blessed to get two different Blastoise artworks in the set EX Crystal Guardians, and it actually featured the first non-water type Blastoise. This set had regular holos, non-holo, and reverse holo Blastoise cards to collect. The first Blastoise to collect in this set is this Fighting and Steel type Blastoise card. And who was credited with making this artwork was none other than, bear with me, Masakazu Kakuda. Again, that is Masakazu Kakuda. Thank you so much for making such an amazing artwork. In a PSA 10 of the holo, there's currently only 60. And as far as pricing goes, Couldn't really get a specific range of pricing on this card, so if you have any information, let me know. If not, it's probably for more speculation right now. I did mention that there was 2 different Blastoise artworks in this set. This is the second Blastoise artwork, and that was illustrated by Kyaku Satoya. Again, that it was illustrated by Kyaku Satoya. In a PSA 10, there is currently only 60 of this card. In the price range, again, don't have that data. In the year 2007, which was the year I graduated 8th grade, Pokemon released this Blastoise from the Diamond and Pearl Secret Wonders set. In this set, there was of course a holo and a reverse holo to collect. And who was illustrated with making this Blastoise artwork is none other than Daisaku Ito. Again, the illustrator's name is Daisaku Ito. In a PSA 10 holo, there is currently only 11. And again, I cannot get prices on this card. Let me know how much you're willing to pay for this card in a regular holo PSA 10. In reverse holo, there is actually only 0. Yes, you heard that correctly. There is 0 of this card in a PSA 10 reverse holo. It seems we keep having to jump in the future to get a Blastoise card. Again, we're going to travel 2 more years in the future to the Platinum era of Pokemon, and in Platinum base set, we get this happy-go-lucky Blastoise artwork. The 2 Blastoise cards that you want to collect from the Platinum base set was the holo and the reverse holo. The artist who created this very go-lucky Blastoise was Kagumaru Hamina. Again, that was Kagumaru Hamina who created this super happy Blastoise artwork. In a PSA 10 regular holo, there is currently only 15 of this card in a PSA 10, and price-wise, couldn't get any data on that. In the reverse holo, again, we have a goose egg, which is 0 PSA 10s of this card in a reverse holo, but again, could not get any price data on these 2 holo and reverse holo Blastoise. In the Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver era of Pokemon, we get this Blastoise artwork release in the Heart Gold Soul Silver Unleashed set. In this artwork, Blastoise is maybe doing a karate move. Not really sure what Blastoise is doing. Let me know in the comments, what do you think this Blastoise is doing in this artwork? Who is credited with giving us this great karate moving Blastoise was none other than Mazukazu Fukuda. Again, there's Mazukazu Fukuda. Thanks so much for giving us this pretty dope Blastoise artwork. Again, let me know in the comments, what is Blastoise really doing? In this set, there was a holo to collect as well as a reverse holo to collect. In a PSA 10 regular holo, there is currently only 5. Again, you heard that correct. There is currently only 5 PSA 10s of this card in regular holo. And reverse holo, there is again 0. I don't know about what's up with these reverse holos. That's 3 different Blastoise in a row that we have covered with only 0 PSA 10s. Maybe they're pretty hard to grade. Not really sure, but again, don't have much pricing on these cards. Let me know in the comments, how much would you pay for the regular holo of this card and the reverse holo of this card? The black and white era was a little nicer to Blastoise, which featured a couple Blastoise in multiple sets. The first Blastoise you see right here was released in the black and white Boundaries Cross set. And who was illustrated with giving us this Blastoise artwork was none other than Satoshi Shiria. Again, that is Satoshi Shiria. Let me know what you guys think of this Blastoise artwork from the black and white set. And in this set, there was of course the holo and the reverse holo to collect. In a PSA 10 regular holo, there is currently only 13 of this card in regular holo, and that'll cost you about $300 or so in a PSA 10. The reverse holo currently only has 3 in a PSA 10, so really couldn't get prices on card that only has 3 in a reverse holo PSA 10. Let me know in the comments, how much would you pay for this card, or how much do you think it is worth in a reverse holo? In 2013, Pokemon released the most popular black and white era set called Plasma Storm, and we got this secret rare Blastoise card, and it's only in a holo. There's no reverse holo, non-holo. We just have the secret rare Blastoise to collect in this set. And who was credited with giving us this amazing illustration of the first ever secret rare Blastoise was none other than Ayaka Yoshida. Again, the name is Ayaka Yoshida. In a PSA 10, there is currently only 94. And if you're looking to get this card into your collection, it'll run you over $2,000. About $2,300 for this card in a PSA 10. The last Blastoise to collect in the black and white era is this Blastoise that you see to the right of me, and that was released later in that same year in the Plasma Blast set. In regular holo PSA 10, there is currently only 15. And honestly, it's not going to cost you too much to get this card. Well, I guess I don't know how much is too much for somebody, but it'll cost you about $200 to get this card in a PSA 10 holo. In the reverse holo, there is currently only 5. So with only being 5 reverse holos, I do not have any price information on this card. Can you believe it's already been 10 years since XY base set released in the year 2014. In this set of XY base set, we get 3 different Blastoise cards to collect. The first of 3 Blastoise cards released was this Blastoise EX card, and that was illustrated by Isiki Yoshinobu. Again, that is Isiki Yoshinobu. And unfortunately for this set, I really wasn't able to get PSA 10 pop reports of these cards. Maybe I wasn't using PSA website right, but I definitely didn't see Pokemon XY base set information there. Maybe it's just me. Let me know in the comments what was the pops. You can add them in the comment section below. We have this Mega Blastoise, and who was credited with giving us the first ever Mega Blastoise artwork was none other than a very popular artist in today's Pokemon still, which is 5-Band Graphics. Again, 5-Band Graphics was credited with making the first ever Mega Blastoise artwork. In the XY era, they did something different with Pokemon cards, where they started releasing full art Pokemon cards, and this right here is the first ever full art Blastoise. Who was credited with making the first ever full art Blastoise goes to the illustrator by the name of Ryu Oida. Again, it is Ryu Oida who gave us the first ever full art Blastoise artwork. Blastoise was getting a lot of love in the XY era. We've already covered 3 different Blastoise cards. 2 years later, in the year Pokemon XY Generations, first we have this Blastoise EX, and that was illustrated by Asika Yoshinobu. Again, that was illustrated by Asika Yoshinobu. In a PSA 10, the pop is currently only 73. It'll cost you about $100. The next card is another Mega Blastoise EX, and that was illustrated by again 5-Band Graphics. Let me know, do you like this Blastoise, Mega Blastoise artwork better, or do you like the previous Mega Blastoise artwork that 5-Band Graphics created? In a PSA 10, there is currently 114, and it'll cost you around $100 to add this card to your collection. A set that wasn't very popular into the 2020 Pokemon boom during COVID was the set XY Evolutions. And in this set, we get this Mega Blastoise EX as the chase card for this set. Who was illustrated with giving us this Mega Blastoise EX artwork is none other than 5-Band Graphics. I'm sure you've definitely heard that name. Again, it is 5-Band Graphics, who was credited with giving us this full art Blastoise artwork. And at PSA 10, there is currently 4,102. Again, you heard that correctly. And at PSA 10, there is currently 4,102 of this card in at PSA 10. And again, it is fairly cheap to get this card added to your collection. If you're a Blastoise collector, it'll cost definitely less than $100 to get this card added to your collection. In 2019, in the Sun and Moon era of Pokemon, which is when I started to kind of get back into Pokemon, we have this Blastoise here released in a non-holo and a reverse holo. There is no holo of this Blastoise card, and the set name is Sun and Moon Team Up. Who was illustrated with giving us this Blastoise artwork of doing Hydro Cannon was none other than Hitoshi Origa. Again, that is Hitoshi Origa, who was credited with giving us this Blastoise artwork. In a PSA 10 regular non-holo, there is currently only 4 of this card in a non-holo PSA 10. The reverse holo of this card, on the other hand, currently only has 16 of this card in a PSA 10, and it'll cost you a little more than the regular non-holo. Of course, the reverse holo being the more of the holo card they collect in this card. It'll cost you between $150 to $200 currently to get this card in a PSA 10 reverse holo. Later that year, Pokemon released 2 different chase cards to get a Blastoise in the Unbroken Bond set, maybe one of my favorite sets of Pokemon in the Sun and Moon era. The first chase card to collect in this set is this full art Blastoise GX. I believe this is the first GX Blastoise ever released. And who was credited with giving us this artwork was Sadigi. This goes by Sadigi, no last name. Again, the illustrator's name is Sadigi. In a PSA 10, if you're looking to get this Blastoise GX, there is currently 545 of this card in a PSA 10, and it'll cost you around $100 or so to get this card in a PSA 10. Now, this Rainbow Blastoise is definitely a chase card that collectors want to have to their collection, especially if you're a Blastoise collector. This is the first ever rainbow colored full art Blastoise. And this was illustrated by the same illustrator who illustrated the last Blastoise card, the Blastoise GX full art, and that artist's name is again Sadigi. In this set, I guess they decided to stick with the same illustrator, and he gave us 2 different Blastoise artworks. If we're looking to get this rainbow full art Blastoise in a PSA 10, there is currently only 568, and it'll cost you around $250 to add this card to your collection. This is definitely a card that I don't have in my collection, and I definitely need to add this card to my collection. The Sun and Moon era was capped off and finished with the Pokemon set Cosmic Eclipse. We got 3 different artworks of Blastoise in the set, but 4 different cards to chase in this set. First up, we have this Blastoise and Piplup GX Tag Team card, and that was illustrated by a name we haven't heard in a while, an OG Pokemon illustrator, and he goes by the name of Arita. In a PSA 10, the pop is 633. Again, there's only 633 of this card in a PSA 10, and it's fairly cheap to get this card. It'll cost you around $50 or less to get this card added to your collection. The next Blastoise card to add to your collection is another tag team of Blastoise and Piplup. I don't really like this artwork, sort of say. It's kind of bland, and that was illustrated by 5-Band Graphics. The PSA 10 pop of this card is currently 364. Again, the PSA 10 pop of this artwork and card is currently $364, and again, it is fairly cheap to get this card. It'll cost you less than $100 to get this card added to your collection. Again, as I stated, we get 3 different artworks of Blastoise in this card. Of course, it's another Blastoise and Piplup tag team card, and this was illustrated by Akira Komiyama. Again, it was illustrated by Akira Komiyama. And a PSA 10, the pop is 796. Again, 796, and again, it'll be fairly cheap to get this card and add it to your collection. It'll be less than $100. The 4th different Blastoise card to collect in this set is this rainbow full art of a previous artwork. So it's not a new artwork, but it's a new card. It is the rainbow full art Blastoise, and there is currently 628 PSA 10s of this card currently in circulation. And again, it'll cost you fairly cheap to get this card. It'll cost about $100 or less to get this card. We're going to be capping this episode with the only 2 Blastoise artworks released in the Sword and Shield era of Pokemon in the year 2022 in the Pokemon Go set. This is actually a subset of Pokemon, and because there was no other Blastoise cards released in this era, I figured I would include these Blastoise into today's lecture. First up, we have this Blastoise artwork, and that was illustrated by NC Empire. Again, this artwork was illustrated by NC Empire. In a PSA 10, there is currently 145. And I couldn't get any price data. However, I figured it'll cost you less than $100 to get this card in a PSA 10. Now, the last and final Blastoise card is this card right here, and that was illustrated by Masakazu Fukuda. Again, that is Masakazu Fukuda, who illustrated us with the last Blastoise artwork that we're going to be covering on today's episode. In a PSA 10, there is currently 3,510 of this card. Again, you heard that card like there is. In a PSA 10, there is currently 3,510 of this card. A very popular Pokemon set, which I'm sure, as you can see by the numbers, it was super popular. Well, there you have it. Class is dismissed. Thank you for allowing me to be your professor and give you a history lesson on a majority of the Blastoise cards released in English Pokemon sets. And most importantly, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Now, let me know in the comments how many different Blastoise artworks did we go through in this video. Let me know in the comments below. I'm gonna pick one lucky winner and definitely have something special for you guys.